Welcome to Super Nutrition Academy's Health Class with your host and registered holistic nutritionist, Yuri Elkaim. Tune in each week for up-to-date insights on breaking health news and best practices on how to eat for awesome health. It's time to get smarter, healthier, and regain your sanity in a world of information overload. And don't forget to join Yuri at supernutritionacademy.com so you too can master your nutrition and health.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Super Nutrition Academy Health Class. In the next couple minutes, we're going to introduce our guest today, my good friend, Dr. Josh Axe. As you're going to find out in this interview, we discuss some really cool things, really spanning the spectrum, talking about the recent study that came out on fish oil and prostate cancer. We'll be talking about detoxification strategies. We'll be talking about burst/interval training as well for fat loss and detoxification purposes. So a lot of great information coming up. So be sure to listen all the way to the end, as you're not going to want to miss this one. And without any further ado, let's get into it. I'm really stoked because today I've got my good friend Dr. Josh Axe with me. And before we go any further, you can check out his stuff over at draxe.com, which is a pretty cool website URL if you ask me. That's draxe.com. And before I bring him in, let me just quickly introduce Dr. Axe to you. He is a chiropractic physician. He is the author of the Real Food Diet Cookbook, which was released back in 2010, which contains 140 awesome, healthy meals that actually taste really good. And he also runs a weekly radio show, which is I've been a guest on, and he's done some great interviews and really just shares a ton of valuable information. And he was a member of the Wellness Advisory Council for the USA wrestling and weightlifting teams. And if you go to his site, you can see he's got pictures with Michael Phelps and Ryan Lochte. So he's been a go-to advisor for a lot of pro athletes as well as everyday people. So with that said, I want to invite Dr. Axe to the call. Welcome, buddy.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Yuri. Great to be here.
Absolutely. It's great to have you. I'm looking forward to diving into some of the topics we're going to discuss, because one of the things you wanted to talk about today was the recent fish oil study that's come out, and, talking about fish oil in general. So I think this is very timely. So why don't we start off by, I'm going to ask you about this. How are fish oil and supplements today? How are they? How can they be toxic? And how can the everyday person find real supplements that are actually, based on quality ingredients?
Sure. Well, fantastic question. I know that I saw this recent article on fish oil, and it really fired me up because, there's a lot of companies out there trying to put out content that is going to really kind of discredit what's going on in the nutritional community. And we know that changing your diet and taking supplements and really improving your lifestyle has a massive impact on your overall health. So there was a study released actually out of the Journal of the National Cancer Institute, and they did a study on well over 2,000 men. But one of the shocking things they found in this study was men who consume the largest amounts of fish oil have a 71% higher risk of getting a high-grade prostate cancer. And I was actually on the phone with a man who is worked for a supplement manufacturer. And he actually said, "Hey, Dr. Axe, did you just see the recent news flash on fish oil?" And this was the Thursday or Friday it came out. And I said, "No, I hadn't seen it yet. I mean, the news must have just come out. I read it online, and this guy was scared to death. He said, I'm not going to take fish oil anymore. I immediately stopped taking it, and I don't know if I'm going to take it again." I mean, really put a fear in a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that people have to realize is not all fish oil is created equally. I mean, that's one of the big things is that, again, we know that it's not all the same. And so I'm always teaching, Yuri, as you are, it's not always about quantity. Most people today, when it comes to dietary principles, it's about counting calories. It's looking at these numbers versus looking at the actual quality of the food you're eating. And it's the exact same thing with fish oil. And this is also why, Yuri, I'm a big fan of food-based supplements. Mm-hmm. And when I say that it's looking at whole food nutrition. A lot of times in the medical community today, we take a isolated compound out of a food And then we use that in the treatment of a health condition. For instance, if you look at something like blueberries, we may take one component out of blueberries like anthocyanins or flavonoids or some type of antioxidant and use that to treat health conditions. I'm typically a bigger fan of taking blueberry, turning that itself into an extract or a concentrated dose and using that for supplementation. It's the idea that when you have all of these compounds working together, the whole is more synergistic than kind of the individual parts of it. So again, jumping here to just talk about this fish oil here quick. Here's the thing you've got to realize about fish oil. Fish oil can be very healthy. In fact, there are thousands of studies proving that fish oil and omega-3 fats fight heart disease, help reduce joint pain, may fight breast cancer, and even reduce Alzheimer's and dementia symptoms. So we know it's very effective, but what they found in the study is that it was the people taking mega doses, and that's taking 2 to 3 times the amount of fish oil that someone should really be taking. That is what was probably causing men to have prostate cancer. And this just is really getting down into the science of it. But a lot of people today say, oh, omega-3 fats are the good fats and omega-6 fats are the bad fats. The truth is it doesn't work like that. You have to have both. And the key factor in reducing inflammation and boosting your immune system is having a perfect ratio of omega-3 fats and omega-6 fats. And here's the thing, if you didn't have enough omega-6 fats in your diet, your immune system wouldn't work very well. And omega-3 fats and omega-6 fats, they work in a system of checks and balances where omega-3 fats suppress inflammation, where omega-6 fats promote inflammation, which is actually important to a certain degree for activating your white blood cells and boosting your immune system. So what happened in this study, men who took too many omega-3 fats actually weakened their immune system because they had an imbalance there in the body. And so again, when you're out there looking for a fish oil supplement, I recommend you look for a fish oil supplement that is either 1,000 milligrams or less. Okay, you don't want to be taking 3 or 5, or I've even seen some people recommend 10,000 milligrams a day of what's called EPA and DHA, which is a different form of omega-3 than you'd find in, let's say, flax seeds or chia seeds. But like I said, Yuri, I really think that always when you're getting your omega-3 fats, it's best found in whole food form. We know salmon, tuna, and sardines are great sources of EPA, DHA. We also know that grass-fed beef, free-range eggs, and raw fermented dairy are a good source of omega-3s. And then chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, and walnuts are also a good source of omega-3s. So remember, number one, get your omega-3s from your food because they already have the right ratios. Number two, if you're buying a fish oil supplement, recommend taking about 1,000 milligrams a day. Look for brands that have astaxanthin in them, a type of antioxidant that gives salmon its red color, or rosemary extract oil, or vitamin E. Something that can stabilize those omega-3 oils is also very, very important. And so remember, again, you don't want to buy your omega-3 supplements at the drugstore or at Walmart. Those are junk supplements. You want to buy them from a reputable company. So anyways, that's my take on fish oil.
Oh, totally. And I think the trouble with the recent study is that, as you mentioned, there are thousands and thousands of studies showing the benefits of fish oil, specifically omega-3s, consumption of fish. And then one study comes out and it's all over the media. People are freaking out, well, especially men. Yeah. And this is the trouble in today's day and age is, it's so media driven, where the latest study that's a little bit controversial comes out and everyone starts, questioning what they're doing. And I think there's some merit to kind of questioning, what we do sometimes, but, we can't forget that there's tremendous benefits to increasing our omega-3 consumption. Because as you said, it's all about that ratio which is way out of whack for most people. So you mentioned cold water fish. Now, obviously, the ideal would be, if we lived in a pure world, we would have no issue with salmon and stuff like that. So if what do you recommend to somebody who says, okay, I want to get some salmon or some smaller fish? Is it better to go farmed or is it better to go wild? Because if I'm going wild, then, they're still exposed to different toxins. So what kind of recommendations would you make from a cold water fish perspective?
Well, I really think when it comes to seafood, that there is a little bit of a worry about mercury out there today. And I'll tell you, it's not something that I am overly concerned with when it comes to wild caught fish out of the Alaska area and the Pacific Ocean. And I actually do have a little bit of a solution for that, which I'll talk about in just in a second if you're going to eat cold water fish. But let me say this, when it comes to farm-raised fish, I really think it's one of the worst things you can put in your body. Farm-raised fish actually tend to have 8 to 10 times the amount of toxins that any type of wild-caught fish. In fact, they have something called dioxins and other chemicals in them. In fact, I wrote an article on my website, and it talks about how tilapia can be worse for you than bacon if it's farm-raised. I mean, really, the majority of tilapia today
or bacon-wrapped tilapia.
Yeah, or bacon wrapped tilapia fried in, pork oil. It's, these are, and especially I'm from Nashville, in the South, this is what you just said, tilapia. And you're from Canada. So, I mean, you get it. That's actually
Canadian bacon, buddy. Yeah.
Exactly. Bacon, everything.
Yeah.
So, it's, and it can, because farm raised fish, they feed on GMO foods. And so, they're full of pesticides. They're kept in little bins, and so they're exposed to their own feces all day. I mean, there are all these issues that make farm-raised fish very, very toxic. And so for that reason, I don't recommend farm-raised fish. I am a huge fan of wild-caught fish. I do wild-caught salmon on a really regular basis. One of the other things I want to mention about wild-caught salmon is it doesn't have to be a crazy price. If you go out to a nice fancy restaurant, it might be $30 for a nice piece of salmon, but you can go to your local grocery store and buy wild Alaskan sockeye salmon for $3. I mean, and I have a recipe on my site. It's for salmon patties. You can make your own healthy salmon patties at home. You can get salmon for a reasonable price. I'm a huge fan of it because of the omega-3s. I'm a huge fan of it because of that antioxidant known as astaxanthin, which is what gives salmon its red color. Here's another note. When you look at farm-raised salmon today, it's actually gray. It doesn't have a reddish or orange color to it. They actually add food coloring in, and that's another problem with farm-raised salmon. And so, again, wild-caught salmon, that dark red color, they're showing that antioxidant in salmon may fight Alzheimer's, dementia, improve brain function. There are so many fantastic benefits of doing wild-caught fish. But if you are worried about mercury content in your fish today, consume smaller fish. Sardines are a great one. Or really, salmon is considered to be a smaller to a moderate-sized fish. So really, salmon is a better option. But one of the cool things that kind of lives in the ocean with salmon is seaweed. There are some good studies showing that algae like chlorella and will actually pull mercury or different chemicals out of the body. So if you are eating fish and you want to really not worry about getting those metals or having those stay in your system, you may take a serving of chlorella or some type of superfood powder right before you do consume any type of fish. Again, I'm not really that worried about it. Your body can deal with these really, really minute amounts of metals that are actually naturally occurring in the soil, for one, in the smaller amounts. So again, it's not something that I am worried about. But I will tell you this, Yuri. I am a massive pain in the butt when I go out to eat. And I know you're probably exactly like me. My wife turns her head, she covers her eyes, acts like she's not at the table, because I'm always asking, is this wild fed or farm, is this farm raised or wild caught? Are you cooking this in butter or are you cooking this in this? So it's, but it's always good to ask when you're out to eat, Well,
I've got a funny story about our mutual friend, Dr. Isaac Jones, because we had lunch up by my place a couple months ago, and we had lunch. We went to this restaurant, and I live in a small town, so I moved out of the city a couple years ago. So we don't have as much of the access to different things as a bigger city does. So we have lunch, and our food comes, and Isaac asks the waitress. He's like, "Do you guys have sea salt?" Because there wasn't sea salt on the table. We only had the salt and pepper shaker. So she's like, "I don't think I do, but let me go across the street and check." So she leaves the restaurant, goes to either her house or the supermarket, and 5 minutes later comes back with sea salt for Isaac. And I was just like, that's awesome. So
wow. That is service.
It was. Yeah, I was, we were both really impressed. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Okay, so talking about toxicity. So you mentioned chlorella. obviously is very, very powerful at kind of chelating heavy metals out of the body. How does toxicity become an issue? We know, I think most people know that it's an issue for degenerative disease, brain stuff down the road, but how can toxicity actually make you fat?
Well, this is something that I teach my patients, Yuri, when I teach classes on like how to lose 20 pounds in 30 days or how to burn fat rapidly. What are those secrets for losing weight? And one of the secrets is getting toxins out of your body. Years ago, when I first started getting healthy, I got a job as a personal trainer. And I remember sitting in the gym and seeing a lot of specifically women come in, and they would be on the treadmill for hours. They would be working out, doing all this stuff, and they were not losing weight. And I said to myself, how is this possible that somebody can work out so much and still not lose weight? And one of the main factors for that is toxins. Toxins bind to your fat cells and store in your fat cells. So if you are just lowering your calories to lose weight or burn fat, and if you are just trying to do more exercise, you're not going to lose the amount of weight that you should. And you may be one of those people out there who you've tried every single weight loss product on the planet. You've tried every pill. You've tried every diet. Nothing has seemed to work. If that's the case, it may be that you really need to do a cleanse or some type of a detox program to help your body release the fat. And what a lot of people don't realize is fat cells actually function as organs. When you have extra body fat and extra belly fat, it causes your body to release hormones in greater proportions like cortisol, and can imbalance thyroid hormone, cause leptin and ghrelin, two really fat-burning hormones, in your body to be imbalanced. And so, again, reducing toxicity is a major cause of weight gain in America, because again, these fats sit in your cells, and until you are eating the right type of food that can help shuttle the toxins out of your system, it will cause you to be overweight. And then again, it also comes down to hormonal weight loss. A lot of women especially struggle to lose weight because their thyroid problems, because their hormones are imbalanced. So again, reducing toxicity is really, really important when it comes to losing weight.
Yeah, I mean, when you consider the world we live in nowadays, which is so toxic, and I was just doing a podcast on a new study that came out showing that 2 million people a year die because of air pollution, and somehow they were able to make that association. And I was like, that's pretty crazy.
Wow.
So when we look at air pollution, water pollution, soil contamination, I mean, all this stuff, as you said, builds up in our body and unfortunately is stored in our fat cells a lot of times. So detoxification is necessary. I mean, what kind of simple strategies would you recommend for somebody to detox, either on a daily basis or maybe something more focused once or twice a year?
Sure. Well, that actually is one of the most common questions I get is how often important is, like you've already talked. It is vitally important to your health. And you should be doing a combination of things. One, you should be detoxing daily in the foods you eat. Mm-hmm. And number two, I think it's good to do a good cleanse once a month or at least 3 or 4 times a year. And obviously there are different lengths. But let me kind of talk about, for myself and my patients, the type of cleansing programs I put them on. There are really 3 things that I really love to do with my patients for cleansing. And those 3 things are doing what I call a juicing therapy, something called the Budwig protocol, and another protocol called bone broth protocol. And these are things that really can help detoxify and cleanse your body. But the first one is juicing. We know that vegetable juicing has massive health benefits. And one of the pioneers of juicing was a man named Max Gerson, a German scientist and physician. And this German doctor, Max Gerson, put people in what was called his own protocol called the Gerson therapy, where they would drink 13 glasses of vegetable juice a day. And the main ingredients in there were lemons, apples, along with celery, and then also a lot of carrots. I mean, so there's a lot of carrot juice on this. And this really, when you're doing a liquid cleanse, it gives your body a chance to rest. That's one of the most important parts of cleansing. It's not always what are you consuming, it's what are you not consuming, and resting your body, letting your own body's detoxification organs like your liver and kidneys, letting them work and have some extra time. But also, vegetable juices are concentrated doses of nutrients that can support cleansing, like vitamin C and beta carotene, and in lemons and limes, quercetin. These compounds can really support the detoxification detoxification pathways, part 1 and part 2 in your liver in a really incredible fashion. So again, I think vegetable juicing is a great way to do a 1, 2, or 3 day vegetable juice cleanse is a great way to cleanse. Or just doing it, that for your morning breakfast, or doing a greens powder. These are beneficial. And then one of the other things I love to put in my cleansing juices is cilantro. Since cilantro has been used in India and in Asia for years because of its cleansing benefits, and there are some studies that indicate that cilantro may even help with helping remove heavy metals from your body like mercury. So again, using cilantro is a great thing to do for a cleanse. The other thing I mentioned is something called the Budwig protocol. And this was a protocol developed by another German researcher, Joanna Budwig, in 1952. And she had patients coming to her with a number of health problems, but specifically with cancer and chronic fatigue issues and autoimmune disease. And what she did is she put them on a protocol high in probiotics, healthy fats, and in prebiotics. And this was really created to help recharge someone's fat cells. If you've ever consumed hydrogenated oils or canola oil or bad fats in your lifetime, those fats literally make up your cell. Every cell in your body, you're made up of 75 trillion cells, but your cells are made up of a lipid bilayer, which is fat. And so if you're eating bad fat, your cells literally become like a dead battery. All of your cells are charged. We've heard of electrons and protons, back when we were in high school science class, where your cells literally have energy. But when you're consuming bad fats, it's literally like you're creating dead batteries in your body. Well, this Budwig protocol literally recharges your cells and helps your body cleanse at the cellular level. And it's a mixture of doing a probiotic-rich dairy beverage like either kefir, yogurt, or amasi, and that's full of probiotics and healthy fats. Then you add in a tablespoon of flaxseed oil for omega-3s, and then you add in 3 tablespoons of either chia seeds or flax seeds for all of the fiber content. It has a type of fiber known as soluble fiber, high in prebiotics. When you mix those 3 compounds together and do them as a meal, the prebiotics, which help probiotics grow, the probiotics and the healthy fats mixed together, helping create very, very healthy cells, help energize your cells. And it's also a great natural colon cleanse because of all the fiber and the probiotics here. The other thing, Yuri, that I think is really beneficial is consuming bone broth. It's full of collagen. It's full of glycine, which helps increase glutathione. It's full of proline, which helps really strengthen collagen. It actually gives your skin a more youthful glow. It helps repair leaky gut if somebody has leaky gut. And bone broth has been used for a long time. It's why if you've ever heard of chicken soup being good for the soul, or if you know that a lot of times I remember growing up, whenever I got sick, my mom would go out and get this canned chicken soup. Now, was that chicken soup any good? No. In fact, all the sodium probably took me an extra day to recover. But, anyways, just to say, chicken soup historically was made by actually cooking and boiling chicken feet, chicken neck, and chicken bones. And you can actually boil bones. There are nutrients in the bone marrow and bones of animals. When you boil it, those nutrients come out as a liquid. And it's probably the number one thing that can repair leaky gut. So again, when it comes to detoxification, I really think that doing juicing therapy, the Budwig protocol, and bone broth therapy have massive results.
Nice. So the bone broth, is that as simple as buying some bones and then boiling them in water, or I've never tried it, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a couple ways to do it. Again, historically, what they wanted to use every part of the animal. So people didn't always have necessarily all the funds that a lot of people do today. So yeah, you take the bones of the animal. And the Weston A. Price Foundation has some fantastic information on this. But yeah, you just take the bones. Now, beef bones you boil for 48 hours. Chicken bones you typically boil for 24 hours. But it releases these nutrients in there. Now, you boil it, and then you bring it down to a simmer after an hour, and you simmer it for that time. And that creates broth. But, you can buy bones at your local farmer's market. You can buy them online from a company called Beyond Organic, or you can buy the broth that's already made the right way, and you can buy that from Wise Choice Market. WiseChoiceMarket.com is where I've gotten mine in the past, and I like to drink this, early in the morning too, just kind of get my gut healthy.
Nice. Well, I mean, we buy big beef bones for our dogs, and they just sit out there all day and chew the marrow. So they know the benefits. All right, so we've talked about some of the issues of toxicity. Well, and obviously some of the foods that can help repair our ailments. What about common health foods that are actually making us sick?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm actually currently working on a book and program called The Secret Detox, and it's really where I really expose all of these foods and health foods that make us sick, and then really bring people through a entire 30-day cleansing protocol. But when it comes to health foods that make us sick, I mean, there are so many, but one of the biggest ones out there today that I commonly see are soy products, and I'm sure you've talked about this on the show before, but I really think that GMO products like soy and corn cause major issues. And the thing is, if you're eating packaged foods today, you will find soybean oil, corn oil, corn syrup. I mean, these are in everything today. So I think one of the big things is getting away from GMO foods, and specifically corn and soy. Soy for years was known as this big health food, and now we're finding out that soy can increase phytoestrogens. We know that's been linked to breast cancer and cervical cancer in a lot of instances. It's also been linked to infertility in women. So again, I really think that people should kind of get off the soy scam. And I'll tell you, Yuri, one of the biggest things that this actually drives me absolutely nuts is that almost every formula for kids today that's supposed to be healthy is a soy formula.
I know. It's crazy.
It's insane. In fact, I just had a good friend of mine from high school email me, and I hadn't talked to him in years, but he said, we cannot find a good formula. So I sent him a couple formulas that I recommended online for infant formulas to make them themselves. One was using goat's milk. It's basically doing goat's milk, carrot juice, a little bit of yeast extract for the vitamin B12, and that was kind of it. And another one was a coconut-based formula using coconut milk, coconut water, flax oil, and again, a little bit of nutritional yeast. But again, you can't find good formula out there. Really, your only option is to make it yourself. And in terms of a last food that a lot of people think is healthy, but it's not, is wheat. We've both heard of the product today, of the book today, Wheat Belly, Lose the Wheat, Lose the Weight. But I want to say this, I really don't think it's just wheat that's a problem. I think it's almost all grains that are a problem. Again, we've heard of gluten. We see professional athletes going gluten-free. And gluten is that sticky protein that causes dough to stick together, or wheat products, or that bread to kind of be a little bit gooey. It's that protein, but it can cause systemic inflammation. So I think going gluten-free is a good option for people. Again, I don't think wheat or whole grains are a health food. I think that historically, anytime anyone ate grains, typically those grains were soaked and then they were sprouted, just like something like Ezekiel bread or a sourdough bread. And I think those are healthier options. But today, most people have overdone grains so much that really I think they should take a period of time off grains, or at the very least, reduce the amount of grains they're consuming and start adding in sprouted grains or gluten-free grains. And here's the other thing I want to mention. Again, the food pyramid from the 1970s, that thing is dead and it's ridiculous.
What?
I mean, imagine the recommendations are eating 6 to 11 servings of grains a day. If I ate 11 servings of grains in a day, I would be passed out in a coma.
Yeah,
it would be unbelievable. And the other thing is, fruits and vegetables are so much more nutrient dense. I don't know if you remember watching these commercials on TV. There used to be an old, it was a Total commercial for Total cereal, and they would have one bowl of Total, and then they would stack up Wheaties cereal, and they'd say, in order to equal the nutrients in one bowl of Total, you'd have to eat 20 bowls of Wheaties. And it's kind of like this, though, with fruits and vegetables. In order to equal the nutrients, in one single bowl of kale, you'd have to eat like 16 bowls of oatmeal. And oatmeal is known as a healthy grain, but again, it doesn't compare to blueberries. It doesn't. Sure. Well, anyways, just to say this, when we do look at the big takeaways from this is, again, really get the gluten out of your diet. or at least do a sprouted grain bread. Start ditching soy and corn. Start reading labels, making sure there are no soy products or no soy ingredients and corn ingredients in what you're eating out there today as well. So all of those things will help in reducing toxicity and helping you burn more belly fat.
Cool. Awesome. Speaking of belly fat, you're a big fan of burst training. I call it interval training, or however you want to describe it.
Yeah.
How does burst training help with detoxification and fat loss?
That's a really good question. I think, just to give you a little bit of my background, again, I know you're a professional soccer player. In undergrad, I started doing a club and actually competing in triathlons. And so I started doing a lot of long distance cardiovascular exercise. And I really thought that was the best way to get fit. Well, once I started reading the research about, 8 years ago or so, and starting to realize that that's definitely not the best way to get fit, I switched over to interval training, what I call burst training as well, exercising in bursts rather than long periods of time. But if you're doing a lot of long distance cardio, it can increase your cortisol levels. High cortisol can lead to increasing your belly fat and overall weight gain. Also, it causes you to age faster. The great news about interval training, the high intensity cardio like we both teach, is that it can really aid your body in burning fat and losing weight. It increases human growth hormone. As you increase human growth hormone, you age slower. Your body is also able to burn more fat, which we both know is really, really important. In fact, there was a study done at the University of Wales, and they found that women who did burst training, and they put them on spin bikes. They had one group do long distance cardio for 40 minutes a day, another group do 20-minute sprints. So they exercised half the time, and after 15 weeks, the one group lost 3 times more body fat. Mm-hmm. So there is no doubt that exercising in intervals is much, much more effective when it actually comes to burning fat and losing weight. There's a program I've developed online. It's called Burst Fit. That's BURSTFIT, Burst Fit. And that's found on my website. I also have a website called burstfit.com. But it's an exercise program. It's really just exercising 20 minutes a day to get in the best shape of your life. And I know that, you do very similar things. Again, you don't have to go and spend hours in the gym. If you can go in 20 minutes and be at the right intensity, your fat loss results will really go through the roof.
Totally. I definitely agree with that. So just before we finish off, I want to ask you a question. What is your definition of health?
Good question. I really think the definition of health is really being full in body, mind, and spirit. And so it's not, and really your body functioning at its maximum potential. I know a lot of times today we rely on things like blood tests or only how we're feeling to really determine if we're healthy or not. But again, health really encompasses your entire body, again, your mind, and like I said, your spirit, because, we can have these great physical bodies and be fit, but if you're emotionally unstable, you're not living your life to the fullest. If you're not connected with God, again, you're missing something there for some people. So again, just to say, I really think that health encompasses us as an entire being, and then also how your body is functioning. It's an important thing to look at. And this is why detoxification is an important topic in toxicity, because toxins interfere with your body's ability to function properly. And once you start removing those toxins from your system, you increase function, you increase your overall health.
Awesome. I love it. Good stuff. All right, guys. So once again, if you want to follow Josh's work, you can go to draxe.com. And he's got a ton of great stuff there. So I really recommend at least reading the most recent article he's posted on Official, which is really, really insightful. Josh, thank you very much for taking the time today. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you soon. So there we have it. Great interview with Dr. Josh Axe, my good friend. And hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope you guys got some good takeaways from this recent fish oil study. And what's actually funny is that we're going to have a couple different points of view and discussions with future guests about this very same topic. So you might hear some conflicting points of view, but at the end of the day, don't worry. If you're part of Super Nutrition Academy, you'll know how to cut through all the clutter. And nonetheless, it's good to kind of keep your mind open to different perspectives. And with that said, what I'd actually like to ask of you today is I want to know where you listen to this podcast from. Are you listening to it while you're at work, on the drive in your car to work? Are you listening to it while laying on the beach? I'd like you to take a picture of you listening to the podcast and tag me in the photo, so at Uriel Came, and I'd like you to post it up on my Facebook page. And when you do that, I'm going to be choosing a couple people to give shout outs to every single week, just as my way of recognizing you guys for listening to the podcast wherever you might be. And I just think it'd be pretty cool to see where people are listening to this podcast from. I know that personally, I listen to most of my podcasts while I'm driving my car, and that might be the same for you. If not, it's all good. I'd love to know where you are listening to the podcast. So once again, take a picture of your favorite location, where you listen to the podcast from, tag me in the photo at Uriel Came, and post it on Facebook. That'd be awesome. And until the next episode, don't forget to join me on the blog over at supernutritionacademy.com/blog. You can get all the notes from this episode as well as every other previous episode. And until next time, have a great day, keep it healthy, and I'll see you then.